Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from Sportsnet. And I'm a little iffy on whether or not this microphone is working or not. Someone in the comments, if you can hear me, make sure you throw me a thumbs up or something like that. Other than that, I'm going to keep rolling like we've got this going here. I'm noticing there's a little bit of upset people in the chat. I understand that. And right off the bat, Wrench Doozer not happy with the way the lineup was constructed. We'll get into that, the whole 11 and 7 thing. I thought it was effective in some places, but it's definitely. I don't know if offense was the problem tonight. I think the Jets had that all taken care of on their end. I think that there was some use of Beaulieu on the penalty kill that the Jets were definitely in need of trying to right the ship when it came to special teams. It looks like they did a lot of that. We'll get into that as well. And if we want to get into it, we might as well get the right guy to get into it with. Let's bring Kenny in here. It's about time we heard enter Kenny. Kenny, I gotta say, I'm glad you're pulling back.
Oh, now your mic has
gone.
There's
bad Wi-Fi in San Jose. Okay, that's gone. So let's pull.
There you go. That's better. Oh, now you're gone completely.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Me? Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this thing. This is why I want to check this. So yeah, I'm taking a little bit of a beating for the Wi-Fi in San Jose. I don't know what people are expecting me to do. This was the perfect opportunity for people to stick it back to the people in San Jose who really have the worst Wi-Fi in the league from what we're seeing here. But Wrench Doozer suggesting that I've got 2 tin cans and a wax string to transmit my data. So he's got something going on there. Hey, if it's not the Wi-Fi, it's the audio issues, but we got it going. How are you doing tonight, Kenny?
Good, buddy. Good. Yep. Just trying to fire things up here on the old quote loop. But yes, yep. Got her wrapped up. Got the audio finished off from St. Paul. Obviously some disappointment. Certainly the Jets, trying to focus on the the hard fought nature of the game. But obviously that is a disheartening loss for sure. Anytime we've talked about this a lot last year. There were several games where the Jets were unable to hold the lead, and tonight was one of them. Well, it went from a 6-4 game to a sliver of ice offside, and Joel Eriksson delivering the equalizer, and then the extra attacker goal, then also the 4-on-3 power play goal. Pretty impressive finish. We'll get into the Jets right away, but man, oh man, 2 quick things. Joel Eriksson, there's a reason why I voted him so high on my Selke ballot. This guy has really developed. He's just been absolutely awesome. And man, Kaprizov, how dynamic a player is he? Man, he's totally changed how that team plays. Like, he's just incredible with what he does. He's just totally changed the dynamic of their team. They were a team that was, dare I say, boring to a certain degree at times. And man, he is a flashy player. I've always been a fan of the way Matt Zuccarello plays. He was involved in almost everything tonight for the Wild. And I get it. Some folks were upset that I think that the elbow, it was a bad elbow for sure. But I think that it was just a glancing blow. I don't see any way that was a 5-minute major and that Kaprizov should have been tossed. It was a minor penalty, which was what the call was. If he had connected fully with the head, given the fact that he kind of left his feet, then of course you can look at it differently. But I don't see that as a major penalty. I just see it as a minor, which is what was called. In terms of Logan Stanley maybe being tripped up after his glorious shorthanded chance after the pass from Lowry, could have a case there, but I think you'd have to go to the slow motion replay on that one in order to get a penalty. I think in real time it's hard. You have to be so sure that that's tripping Sean, right? I mean, Stanley kind of goes to the net. He's a little bit off balance. Do I think he probably was tripped up and prevented from getting back? Yes, but in real time as a referee, you have to be 100% sure to make that call, and the call was not made, and it ended up in the back of the net with what was essentially a 3+1 on one against the Jets. So
well, and I don't think he was getting back in that play. Even if that doesn't happen, I don't think he was getting back in that play. And Dan,
right.
Jets fan, says brutal defense on the 4-on-3. I mean, yeah, it looks that way. It's a 3-on-1. Clearly, that's, you're not setting yourself up for success. But in my mind, I think the simple part of what's happening there is it's overtime, and they're playing for the extra point, right? They're going all out. They're taking their chance. It's a glorious scoring chance. It gets kicked out by Talbot, and it goes the other way. But you see that time and time again in 3-on-3 overtime, never mind 4-on-3 overtime. Teams go all in for a chance and try to score. And I think there's a little bit of a devil-may-care, or a kind of like goaltender, you're on your own kind of situation that goes on there. I think Stanley was, going for the game winner there.
And you have to.
And they didn't think that they were going to get another chance like that, especially, killing a penalty. The chances are, even if you don't go for that chance and you come back down, you're giving the opposition a 4-on-3 power play until the end of overtime. So I like that play. I like it that Stanley jumped up in there. I know they lose that game, but to me, that's what overtime is all about. The real error is them not getting to overtime in the first place. That's the problem. And I guess, Ken, it begs the question. This is a little bit of a play that the Winnipeg Jets have seen before, these late game collapses. Was this a bad bounce kind of situation that you don't hang as much on the team? Or are you not happy with the way that went?
Well, I mean, there were certainly some bounces attached. I mean, how else do you describe how the puck ended up in the net, right? I think it went off of Andrew Kopp's stick, but it kind of bounced off three different things. The issues, though, let's put it this way. There are issues that can be cleaned up. Yes, there were bad bounces, but the Jets had a lot of failed clearing attempts, whether it was on the two power play goals allowed or on the extra attacker goal. There were certainly some bad luck involved, but if those pucks are cleared, there's no issue. So I don't know how, Roscoe, coming in hot, great. How is it... coaching is an issue to some degree anytime a team gives up 6 goals, but the coach did not say leave that guy wide open in front of the net, and the coach didn't fail on the clearing attempts. The players are the ones that are unable to get the clear. So I understand there's going to be certainly some let's start with a lineup. Sorry. So just so folks don't think that I'm always defending Paul Maurice, I do have some issues with the lineup. I would have preferred the Jets play 12 forwards and 6 defensemen, first and foremost. That would mean having to leave Cole Perfetti in. I'm not up here saying that Cole Perfetti should have been on the top line, because he shouldn't. Andrew Kopp did a great job on the top line. For all the people in here saying he has stone hands and can't score, well, take a look at the goal he scored tonight. You don't score those kind of goals if you don't have hands. He made a lot of smart plays and fit in very well on that line. So let's start with that. Secondly, I don't love 7 defensemen for the Jets. I don't think it's a great way to find the rhythm, but this is my explanation. The reason, you touched on it in the open, Sean, the Jets' penalty kill has struggled mightily. One of the things that Nathan Beaulieu does quite well is block shots and get into shooting lanes. So if part of your goal is to improve the penalty kill by doing things you haven't been doing, which are getting into the shooting lanes and clearing the front of the net, in that regard, going to Nathan Beaulieu makes some sense. Not necessarily at the expense of going 11 forwards, because it meant that, Svechnikov only had about 6 minutes of ice time, but that's the reasoning behind it. I'm not saying that I love the call, but I understand why the move was made to a degree. I would have still preferred to see Cole Perfetti in the lineup, but that's one thing. The power play had 2 goals. I know the Paul Maurice has said it's about handedness for Riley Nash on the power play. I would prefer to see Cole Perfetti on the second power play unit. And then I would also, in this situation, Blake Wheeler is out of the lineup for the Winnipeg Jets, probably for at least 4 or 5 games and possibly even longer. I would like to see Cole Perfetti go onto that second unit, whether it's on the half wall or maybe it's down low. This is the chance for the Jets to try Nikolai Ehlers on that unit. We've talked about the reasons why they're not together. That's because basically Ehlers and Scheifele play the same position, but you have to. Here's a great chance to try it. I don't know if that means having him down low or wherever else, but to me, it's a chance to try that. So let's go with that again. Otherwise, in terms of the line combos, I mean, it's another night where you didn't see a lot from Christian Vesalainen. I know the Jets want to be patient with him, but I just don't think right now things are going smoothly for him. And then the fact that they go with 11 forwards, they didn't really get anyone in a rhythm. And I would have liked to have seen Ehlers double shift a few times onto that fourth line. I understand they shook things up and mixed things and matched and everything else, but I'd like to see a little bit more. This is where you can find that additional ice time for a Nikolai Ehlers, and I didn't really see that happening tonight as often. So anyways, so for all the folks that think that all I think is Paul Maurice makes all great decisions, I have an issue with some of them. I mean, I think Paul Maurice is a smart hockey guy, but I don't like all of the things that the Jets did today. But for someone saying, I'm here to rip on all players, like, hey, folks, we appreciate you coming down. But if you think you're going to talk me into saying all the Jets are terrible, that's just not happening here today. I'm sorry.
You know what? I want to get this out of the way, Ken, because it's something I haven't even discussed with you. There's someone who's going to be leaving us for the Kenny and Renny show, something that's been with us right since the very beginning. We haven't had this conversation, but it's kind of been a fixture on the show and kind of to help shape the show and make it what it is. And it's about to come to an end. And of course, what I'm talking about is the flow. I'm getting a haircut tomorrow, Ken. I'm getting a haircut. I'm getting rid of this. The wife has won the battle.
It's about time.
And I know I appreciate this from Wrench Doozer here, who says Renny has the best flow on HNIC. I thought so too. I completely agree. But it looks like the time has run out on that. So we have to make this a Sean's Headband version.
I love it. Good.
Let's get at it. Kind of choking me up a little bit here, Ken. I don't know. It's going to be hard.
If you want, I can come over with the Oster 67 if you want to take her down a little lower.
Well, I'm not sure I trust you doing that, but I would if you'd come to the appointment with me and hold my hand throughout it. That I could use the moral support throughout this. Hey, let's get into you brought up Nick Ehlers and the need or the want to see a little bit more from him, from the coach. What's going on with Nick Ehlers right now? 3 games, he's got 0 points. I've seen him kind of ripping around, but he's not quite connecting the way that we saw, maybe in the preseason, definitely how we saw towards the end of last year. Where do you see his game being?
Well, I mean, he had 10 shots on goal through the first 2 games, so I don't see any issue with Nikolai Ehlers creating scoring chances. I mean, he's had plenty, but I think he's he had different line mates again today. So, I mean, was there a little bit of an adjustment? Yes. Yeah, I mean, Nikolai Ehlers wasn't as involved tonight. And as I mentioned, I think on a night where things aren't necessarily going as smoothly, getting him that extra, ice time in a double shifting situation might be able to get him rolling. So that's what I would like to see in that. I disagree, Jeff. Nikolai Ehlers has done a good job of going to the hard areas in the last couple of seasons. He does not play a perimeter game. He's not afraid to go to the hard areas at all. In fact, he's been way more physical the last couple of years. So, one thing, I mean, Paul Stastny, I think he did a nice job in the penalty kill today, but they're not clicking the same way that they did last year when it was Dubois, Ehlers, and Kopp, which was, Sean, one of your favorite lines of the last year. They were not able to generate quite as much today. I thought that Pierre-Luc Dubois was engaged again. I mean, he certainly didn't he certainly went right at Kaprizov after the elbow. So, and here, a really smart play. So the goal that he scores looks like, this is like the Wheeler pass to Kyle Connor for the first goal of the Jets season. His ability to find the lane on his offside and rip that shot is really impressive. The way he's able to get his hips open there and fire home that shot on his offside was pretty impressive to me. So, we've been wondering if that slot spot was going to work for him, where we knew last year he's used more in a shooting area on the right wing boards. So that was certainly an important part. I used to have great flow for anyone who I had Jaromir Jagr hair as a teenager, but it was time to trim her down, I guess. So,
before you move on, I just want to say AJ Jets back 11. Why are the media not asking tough Maurice? We're asking Maurice any tough questions. It's brutal. Just elaborate. Let me know what you think that we're missing, just so that we can be clear what you think that we're not doing in our jobs. And Ken, keep on going.
Yeah, no, I mean, Dubois, really nice play. Uneven game. Well, I mean, I think 2 of his 3 games were pretty solid. I mean, could he have had a better clear? Sure, but I mean, he wasn't the only person there. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. The Jets are not clicking on a lot of areas. I mean, yeah, we heard through, with the players post game that, yeah, there are a lot of good things. Well, there are some good things for sure, but Sean, all we've been talking about throughout the training camp is how the Jets were going to be better defensively. They just gave up a 6-pack today. So, and I didn't like the wraparound goal from Eric Sinek. I know a lot of people were like, I also don't think it was a good read by Hellebuck. I don't think he was, lackadaisical getting across, but he didn't seal the post. So to me, that's something that we're used to Hellebuck sealing perfectly there, right? I mean, he gets over and seals, but just the way that the puck rode up his pad and went above it, it just meant that he didn't get over there quite in time or seal it off. So otherwise, I mean, look at the ridiculous saves that he made. The save that he makes on Jonas Brodin at the end of the second period is absolutely exceptional. So, AJ, Maurice was asked about 7D. I asked him last week about it, and then he talked about it today. So, I mean, we've asked about the penalty kill. We've asked about...
That's interesting. A lot of the questions that people are saying that the media needs to be asking Paul Maurice to be, because we're not being tough enough on him, are questions that have been asked. Now, this is the one thing I get, and I know last show we had this as well. We had a viewer, I can't remember who it was, had made a suggestion that we were taking it and we're being too soft on Paul Maurice. I get it. We understand how this works. We understand our own show. People show up here, they get pissed off, and people are named Fire Maurice, and a lot of people come on here and that's it. It's the Fire Maurice thing. You got to understand, like. I'm not a columnist. My job isn't to write columns that suggest that the Jets fire Paul Maurice. I'm a reporter. My job is to gather information, present the information to you, and allow you to make your own decision on it. A lot of you, from what we do with that, are landing on the idea that you want Paul Maurice fired, and that's fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. I don't agree. I don't disagree. You are a fan. This is what you get to do, but what is often mistaken in this is the suggestion, and I'm not going to get pissed off at it because I understand this is how it works, but the suggestion that we're not doing our jobs, or we're softballing, or we're not pursuing the problems that are happening is more often than not, and this chat proves it, because we're being told to ask this question, questions that have been asked time and time again ad nauseum. But it's not our jobs to go to the coach angry like a fan is right now and say you should be fired. It's not the job of a reporter. That's not how it goes. Now, columnists again can go and they can make suggestions and say that kind of stuff. That's not my job. Okay. And Ken, it's not yours either. do better, Sean. Okay, I'll work on it. But
I didn't highlight that one.
I did. It's okay.
Okay, good.
So all I'm saying is, I mean, we try and call it as we see it. We try and do that as much as we can. And you know what? You may not agree. You may not disagree. I think I do a pretty good job of calling a spade a spade. There was a lot of people who were angry at me last year because I was early on the Pierre-Luc Dubois train and stayed on it for the entire year, and I didn't see the turnover that I was expecting there. There's a lot of times we take heat for this kind of stuff, okay? That's our job. I'm okay with that. If people want to be pissed off at me for my opinions or disagree with me, that's fine. But I'll say this time and time again, more often than not, when you think we aren't doing our jobs and we aren't asking these questions, if you go back and you check the media avails, the question that you think people are too scared to ask has been asked probably numerous times. That's all I'm saying. Ken, let's get into something controversial.
Sorry, one other thing, just so sure. If some folks are unaware, on a game like tonight, Sean and I are not there, or we're at home. We're not traveling right now. Sean was at the first two games, so there's no Zoom calls happening. But yeah. I don't have any question. I don't have any problem with the questions that are being asked by our colleagues either. I mean, people are asking about Perfetti. Well, Perfetti was like Paul has left a paper trail about scratching Perfetti for the last week for anyone who's been listening, right? I mean, he's been leaving the door open for him not only to be scratched, but to be returned to the Moose, whether that's going to be before the opener or sometime later this week. I mean, those breadcrumbs have been left already. Paul likes the player, but right now he feels as though if he doesn't have enough ice time for him, he's going to be heading to the American Hockey League. I mean, I get it. Fans are upset and frustrated, and we're happy to have you share your frustration here. I mean, no problem. Like we're here. We're here to listen. Well, that doesn't mean we're always going to agree.
Yeah, we're here to give access to people who, like, I don't mind this. I hope by me saying this, it's not coming across like me saying, don't say that. Like, take your shots. Take your shots. I'm comfortable with my job and how I've done my job. And if you don't think that I'm doing my job properly, this is a forum where you can come and you can say that. I'm okay with that. This is the whole idea. We want to talk to you. I do like this. I like the comments like this where Rob Somerville says, what the hell is Maurice doing with Scheifele and Connor on the ice defending a 1-goal lead? We need defensive players in that situation. I thought exactly this. When I saw those guys out on the ice during the extra man attack, it's the first thing I thought. Now, I know the answer to this question. I know what Paul Maurice was thinking. Paul Maurice, if you notice in the years past, there's a reason that Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Blake Wheeler. Now, Ken, remind me if this is wrong or not, but those three players were in the top 3 in the league coming into last year in empty net points. Am I right about that?
There certainly have piled up several, yes.
So the idea of Paul Maurice is the idea of a good defense. A good defense is a good offense in that situation. He thinks that those players are more often than not going to score into the empty net than they are going to get scored on. I thought it was strange, and maybe it's just the way that game was going. I would have expected like maybe a Kopp, Lowry, kind of Stastny hybrid, really, defensive-minded players when you need them to be defensive-minded. I was a little bit surprised by it, the way that things were going. And I think one of the things comes back to the idea, kind of what we were talking about. You were talking about all the goals that they've allowed. The Minnesota Wild, the San Jose Sharks, and the Anaheim Ducks have all got to the net way too easily against this Jets team. I think every single goal tonight, except maybe one, was from right in tight on the crease. And I just, at this stage, I thought that line is, if they're playing on their toes to steal the puck and go down and score on the empty net, that tells me that you don't have the backing by the net where you've been weak for the entire evening. And that is why I thought that was an interesting decision. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, just one quick thing, and I certainly understand it, and I would certainly say I was expecting I was expecting Lowry to be on the ice. I mean, that's a situation for him. But, I mean, without the sliver of white ice, I mean, Scheifele did make a very smart defensive play on the goal that was called off for the offside. He knocked down the puck. Yes, that line was on the ice for a while, and you could say they got hemmed in, but they did a good job of keeping things to the perimeter. And then he stole the puck and it set up the chance. And I mean, you can't go offside in that situation. I mean, it looked like maybe Scheifele, he had a split second pause. I'm not sure if it was because he kind of lost the handle briefly. It's not like Kyle Connor was hustling in so he could get Scheifele to pass it to him. I mean, he made a smart play and then, he just went a little bit too far offside. I mean, he just literally an inch to go offside. So, and I also would say too, and I've said this on the last show, Kyle Connor is playing a much different defensive game this year. He's been much more noticeable and he's done a much better job. So I don't have a problem with Kyle Connor being on the ice in that situation. And it wasn't just so he could go out and get a hat trick. I mean, I think that is more of a reward for the effort that he's been putting in. I mean, I don't think it was Kyle Connor's fault that goal went in by any stretch of the imagination. So anyways, would you think that Adam Lowry would be a better alternative out there? Maybe, for sure. I mean, he has been the shutdown guy for a long time, but I don't think that the forward personnel was the reason why the game got tied in the last minute. I mean, good question by you, Sean. I mean, how did he get to the net? Well, I mean, there's one extra guy, so it's going to be easier to get to the net, but do they need to make it a little bit more difficult? Sure. I mean, that's a fair assessment. I mean, I think that the Jets, when they're having their video meetings, are probably saying the same thing. You got to do a little bit better job in front of the net. But this goes back to our original premise. If the clears are happening, those plays there's no goals happening, right? So, yeah. Robert Sutton, I don't know, what are you curious
about? Bring it up, yeah.
Blake is symptomatic positive, which means he has COVID. So we don't have any other information about how serious the symptoms are, what the symptoms are. But what we can tell you is that under the NHL protocols for COVID, Blake will be in quarantine for at least 10 days, and then he will need to be symptom-free for a 24-hour period before he can return to any practice with his teammates. So he will miss a minimum of 4 games, and I know we can't speculate. Like, to me, COVID and concussions, they're not nearly the same thing, but there is a parallel that we're only learning about the effects of these things in real time. So this is not like a broken leg or an ankle where you can say, in 2 weeks, Blake Wheeler will be feeling great and will be able to jump into the lineup. I mean, he's going to be off the ice for a minimum of 10 days. We don't know what his energy levels are like, and we know that his health has to be first. So before he even gets back to practicing, that's what's going to be happening. I mean, so he's going to miss some time. I mean, how much time, we don't know. So this is just something that's going to be, not day to day. After the 10 days, we'll probably get we'll get an update, and then we'll see when he's back on the ice. But I wouldn't be expecting him to be back on the ice for a while. And we listened to Connor Hellebuck talk about how he dealt with COVID and how it impacted his training and everything else. So I would just say patience is going to be required. I know that folks were fired up about Wheeler to begin with, but he needs to get healthy first and foremost, and then we'll see what happens in terms of, usage and when he can get back into the lineup.
Hey, I want to ask you this question, Stonewall Dave brings it up, because I think this is interesting. Let's move from the late claps to something we can all agree on. Foligno is annoying as hell, and it feels good to legit hate the Wild again. The punch to Dubois, what did you think of it?
I mean, I don't love it, but I mean, I don't... punches to the back of the head in a scrum are never good. I don't think it was necessarily fully connected. Marcus Foligno's a guy you notice. He's a guy that if the guy plays from the other team, you're going to hate the guy. If the guy plays for your team, you know he's a fan. We know he's a fan favorite in Minnesota because of the way he plays. He's involved. He gets fired up. He's physical. And guess what? He scored the power play goal that cued the comeback today. So, yeah, I mean, that's great for Dave. I mean, those are the kind of players that fans should hate. I mean, good on him. But I mean, in general, I like how involved, like, Marcus Foligno helps the Minnesota Wild play. And I think there was a couple years ago when we were talking about the trade deadline when the Wild were struggling, I thought Foligno would have been a perfect addition to the Jets when we were looking at the kind of pain in the you-know-what that they were kind of lacking. So to me...
Well, I'd say still.
Still, sure. I mean,
player that this team needs, for sure.
And this is what I was saying. Could you imagine Marcus Foligno on a line with Adam Lowry? Imagine the turmoil that they could fire up, and then maybe you play Svechnikov or Harkins or someone else with them. I mean, that would be an outstanding combination. But guess what? Foligno just signed an extension, and Bill Guerin said this guy is going nowhere because he's too valuable. So, I mean, you love to see the passion in that game. That's what you love to see. I mean, it's important, and those are the players that you got to have on your kind of teams. I mean, and that's he's part of the Wild identity. Wears a letter, he's involved, and for sure, Jets fans should hate Marcus Foligno because he does the kind of things that are annoying to an opponent. But back to the original question, I don't like it when guys are kind of rabbit punching in the back of the head, but I don't think it was something that caused any bodily harm. But you never see, you don't like to see that. But I don't have a big problem with that. I don't think it's a suspendable offense either by any stretch. I think it's something where he's trying to get under your skin, and he certainly did.
So I'll be splitting hairs here and probably pissing people off in the chat, but it kind of seems like it comes to the side of the head. I looked at it a couple times. It looks like it's side of the head, although towards the back of the head. Maybe that doesn't matter. But I don't have any problem with that play at all. Pierre-Luc Dubois just went and grabbed Kirill
their best player,
gave him a rabbit punch to the face, had him hooked by the inside of it's their best player, and he's a kid. And Pierre-Luc Dubois is a big boy. Like anyone who's played any kind of hockey out there should know that if you're going to go after the other team's best player, you should be expecting something to come, and you shouldn't be expecting someone to politely tap you on the shoulder and turn you around and say, "Excuse me, sir, get your hands off him." You should be expecting an absolute pop from any direction. So to be honest with you, I'm not sure that Pierre-Luc Dubois would have had been overly surprised that happened. He didn't look like it from the play. He didn't look like he turned and was like, "What the heck is going on here?" You're going to go after the top guy on the other team like that. That's exactly what you expect. I was quite honest, surprised to see some of the the outrage on Twitter. Then again, it's your team and people like to protect their own. So let's talk about Andrew Kopp here, and let me frame it like this.
One quick thing.
Sure.
So maybe some of the folks maybe looks like they missed Saturday night, and I'm not going to bang the drum every night, but yes, I am in favor of David Gustafsson. So if the Jets aren't going to play Cole Perfetti, I would like to see David Gustafsson called up to try to help the penalty kill and to try to solidify the fourth line in terms of getting them some more minutes. Yes, I would like to see that again. I'm not going to be banging that drum all 82 games or until it happens, but I'm on record as saying, I like the way that David Gustafsson plays. I understand the Jets are maybe wanting him to have a little bit more time with the Moose, but I think he's ready for a little bit more work. And, the sooner that happens, probably the better for the Jets.
I want to ask you this question this way, about Kyle Connor, about Mark Scheifele, about the way this team played tonight, about Andrew Kopp especially. But what did you learn, if anything, about this team and its potential construction from Blake Wheeler being out?
Well, like I said earlier, I think Andrew Kopp did a nice job in that on that line. I think he can play well on that line, and he did play well on that line. And I think that when Andrew Kopp is, he's not a guy who lacks confidence. There have been times, when he jumps in the top six, that occasionally he tries to do a little bit too much. Tonight was not one of those nights. Tonight he played a very, very good game. And I love the way that he played. I mean, he's a guy that gives that line some additional defensive responsibility. Safety valve, I don't know if you need to call it a safety valve, but he is a defensive conscious, but he makes smart plays. The one time where, one of the best plays was he made a nice delay. He fed it, dropped past to Kyle Connor. Kyle Connor feeds Mark Scheifele for a one-timer. Really, really smart play, which, again, He processes the game. He's not just a smart player defensively. He processes all of the game at an extremely high rate. All of the things we've been talking about Cole Perfetti, except he also is an incredible defensive player. But he can play with those skilled players because he's smart enough to play with them, and he's also skilled enough. He's much more skilled than people give him credit for. You saw the finish on his goal there. Does he always score like that? No. Is he as natural a finisher as Kyle Connor? No. But that's because Kyle Connor is an elite finisher. He's 7th in the NHL in goals scored since 2017-18. Okay, so that's why some guys don't show the same way. So, anyways, Kopp can fit with those guys long term. I would be willing to give Paul Stastny a lot more time. This is a great point by Dan.
Comment.
Yes, he's not as fast as Zach Hyman, but in terms of being that defensively conscious guy that's smart enough to play with skilled players, yes, that is very accurate and a good way to put it. Paul Stastny has earned a longer leash for sure. Right now, I would say give them a little bit more time. This is one game together. One other part of that, you might say, do they have enough speed on that line to complement Nikolai Ehlers? But I would say Paul Stastny has the vision and passing ability to get the puck into Ehlers' hands, which is what you want. The more time the puck can spend in Nikolai Ehlers' hands when he can get his shot off, that's a good thing. So I think that Paul Stastny can do that job ultimately. If it's not going to click in the next, several games, would I be in favor of giving Evgeny Svechnikov a chance there? Of course. Have a look at it. I mean, we know that there's some built-in chemistry, but here's the problem. Svechnikov is more comfortable on the right-hand side, and so is Nikolai Ehlers. So putting a guy on the left-hand side, even though he's had success with Pierre-Luc Dubois Jr., that's not necessarily an easy fix either, and that's not a natural fix. So we'll just have to see how it goes. I think Stastny deserves a little bit more time and see what happens there. In terms of the third line, I'd like to see Svechnikov in for Vesalainen right now. I think that's something that you get a little bit more bite in your game. I think there were a couple shifts for Vesalainen, got involved physically, won a board battle, but I think that you could probably get a little bit more offense. The offensive game is more developed and advanced in Evgeny Svechnikov right now. So I would say I would like to see him get a chance on that third line. I think Harkins deserves a longer look there as well. And then on the fourth line, as mentioned, if Perfetti's not going to play, and I had no problem with Perfetti playing on the third line with Lowry, but I don't think it makes sense to have Perfetti on the fourth line and then have him in the second power play role like a Nick Patan was used at certain times. So try Gustafsson in that regard. If that's the way you're going to go, then you can get Vesalainen on his natural side on left wing. You can move Riley Nash to the right side. You can use Nash for the face-offs on his strong side, but then you have Gustafsson in the middle there. So that's what I think I would see in the initial part. I mean, at some point, do you want to try Perfetti more? For sure. But you might it looks, all signs at least are pointing towards Perfetti being assigned to the Manitoba Moose to get more playing time. But if that's not the case, then give him a chance to give her. I mean, see what happens. Patan is on waivers, Dom, yes.
So you kind of tackled the whole lineup there, so I'll
sorry, I didn't mean to dig all that in, but
no, it's okay.
What would you like to see? What would you like to see?
Use up my book here, Ken. Let's get it all done here.
You asked me what I thought. That's what I think.
I asked you. Okay, so
I went to the buffet again. Sorry, I was intending on only going in for a couple of appetizers, and I absolutely grabbed everything. I grabbed the crab legs. I grabbed the shrimp cocktail. I brought it all back to the table, but I promise I'll share with you. I'll share.
Yeah. He's that guy who had the shrimp cocktail stuffed in his front shirt pocket on the way back to the table. You know what? I'll say this. I took a look at how that line played tonight and how Kopp, played. And you think about that, like the idea of putting Wheeler and Scheifele and Connor together, but you've got essentially the best offensive player on the team, one of the best scorers in the league, and until recently, one of the best setup men in the game. My beef with this has always kind of been the idea that if you take a look around the league, most really good star players don't have an entirely loaded line. They don't have the best scorer on one side and the best setup man on one side. Paul Maurice always likes to talk about drivers, and this is the thing that I've never understood over the course of the Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele era in Winnipeg, which is the only era in Winnipeg, is the idea that if these two players were the two biggest drivers on the team, why couldn't you split those two players up and have them drive other lines? And I guess my idea is they took a guy like Kopp, who until very recently we weren't really sure whether or not he could contribute offensively. Whether or not it's just one game, I think he's earned himself an addition there. Like if I were a coach and I was looking at this line and I truly believed that Blake Wheeler was a driver for this team, he still remained a driver, and Paul Maurice believes that, then I would look at this as a boon. You know what I mean? That Blake Wheeler had to go out, but we got to move Andrew Kopp up into that spot, and that line tore it up. They tore it up. They elevated that player into a top line player, and that top line looked good. I would be salivating as a coach if I believed that Blake Wheeler was and remained a driver on this team, and say, now I can move him and have him drive another line. Maybe Nick Ehlers, and this is one of the questions I was going to ask. We always see Paul Maurice kind of juggle the lineup around, and did it incessantly last year to get that first line going. When's there going to be a move made to get Nick Ehlers going, right? I know it's only 3 games, but I highly doubt that Paul Maurice would let a slump by Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler percolate for 3 games without saying, we got to do something about this. Here's your opportunity to say, okay, Blake Wheeler's still a driver. He's still a setup man. Nick Ehlers hasn't launched yet for the first 3 games. Let's try him there and see what we can do with that. And we know that Blake Wheeler's had chemistry with Pierre-Luc Dubois. Let's see how that works. This should be the kind of scenario that a coach is playing with found money, that Andrew Kopp has gone up there and opened up all sorts of possibilities. But I think what we fully would expect from Paul Maurice, the way that he's coached this team in the past, is that when Blake Wheeler gets back, everything is going to go back to normal, and the lineup will kind of work around that top line. I just think that's what I learned here tonight, is that I think that there's just so much more play that can be done with that top line. I think most people can, and I think you'll agree with me here, most people think like, we got to change that top line. Let's get Nick Ehlers up to that top line. And I understand that because I've been on the record saying I believe that Nick Ehlers has the potential to be the best Winnipeg Jet, so he should be playing, top line minutes. I agree with you. There should have been more opportunities to get him onto the ice more often to try and break the game open. But this Andrew Kopp thing with that top line is the perfect way to do that. And I just find it, I can understand the frustration of fans who feel like no matter what happens, and someone made the comment here earlier on, no matter what happens, the outcome is going to remain the same. You and I said it. We knew last season they were going to end up, you could spin that wheel all you wanted. You could spin the Price is Right wheel, but it was always going to land on Scheifele, Connor, and Wheeler. And I think that there's a little bit of a predestined feeling to it. I'll go a little bit down the lineup, and I'll reiterate this. Svechnikov and Harkins played really good together in the preseason. The whole idea of experimentation in the preseason was to find out who worked with who. And those 2 players looked like they worked together. Now we've never seen them again. Some people have talked about Christian Vesalainen. You talked about him. I don't think that there's anyone in this forward group who has done less during preseason and training camp to earn the spot that he's getting than Christian Vesalainen. Right now, I think the Winnipeg Jets have an idea of what Christian Vesalainen could be, and they're doing everything they possibly can, giving him every opportunity to become what they believe he can be, whereas there are other players, I think, that are going out and earning opportunities and maybe not getting those opportunities. And I'll go back to Andrew Kopp before I finish this off and we move on. But the one thing you got to give Andrew Kopp, who is, I think most of us believed was going to be a 3rd-line fixture for years with Adam Lowry, and it was just going to stay that way. When he was given an opportunity last season to move up the lineup, he did something with that opportunity. Tonight, he's given an opportunity to be a first-line player, and he goes out and he gets it done. You got to give Andrew Copp credit, and you'd want to see that more around the lineup. People are talking about Cole Perfetti getting in here. I don't think that Cole Perfetti has grasped the brass ring yet. I'm not saying I don't think he doesn't have a bright future, but from what I'm seeing and the reactions that I'm seeing, people are losing their minds over Perfetti, and I don't see why. I don't see what's happened in the first couple games that people are absolutely entirely losing their mind. I don't have a problem with him being taken out of the lineup tonight, because they were going to try and use Beaulieu in certain spots to settle down the penalty kill. And unlike you, Ken, I do not like Perfetti on that third line. We talked about it, and we talked about a guy like Foligno, what he would look like with Lowry. I think that's an element missing right now, and I think putting Perfetti beside Lowry is a way to lessen that heaviness that line brings, not increase it. And I'm not sure if the payoff, or I have not seen the payoff of putting him on that line and potentially making it a more offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, like I said, this is what I've talked about before. I mean, first and foremost, I've always said bet against Andrew Copp at your own peril. This is a guy that has always gone out and earned everything that he's got, whether it be from the U.S. National Development Program all the way to pro hockey. I mean, for those who have forgotten, this is a guy who had a chance to be on a scholarship somewhere else, but he chose to go to Michigan, his hometown school, as a walk-on, and by the third year he was not only on the team, he was the captain of the team. So this guy has always been able to squeeze out more. I've always thought that he has a chance to play in a top six role. Back to your original point, I mean, look at who Sidney Crosby has been playing with. He played with, one of his best line combinations was with Pascal Dupuis and Chris Kunitz. So you would never look at the roster of the Penguins and say, who would be a perfect guy to play in a line with Crosby? Pascal Dupuis. But you know what? Andrew Copp is a similar player to Pascal Dupuis. Maybe not as fast, but smart, processes the game, and can play up there. I mean, Kunitz, great skater, straight line player. So he's smart enough to play with those guys. So and another thing, Sean, I mean, you talked about it, about the blunt instrument, Lowry's line. I mean, with the way they were used today, they were going head-to-head against Hartman and Foligno and Jordan Greenway. So they went back to kind of that idea, even though, obviously Vesalainen's not in that same mold as a Tanev or an Appleton, but, I mean, he plays with some size. So, I mean, Copp is going to be able to go from there. And for everyone asking, I mean, here's the other thing. Do we think that Nikolai Ehlers can get some more ice time? Yes, but he hasn't always meshed super well with Mark Scheifele anyway. That's not to say that he couldn't, but it's not necessarily a guarantee that they would mesh well together. And back to your point about drivers, I mean, if Kyle Connor is going to play the way that he is, he can become a driver. I mean, Scheifele and Connor, we know that works. So we got to find something that works for Nikolai Ehlers. And the Jets believe Pierre-Luc Dubois can be that guy. So I believe that they're going to give that some more time. But like we have been saying, you get drivers, if you get Dubois going consistently, I think he's had for sure 2 out of 3 strong games, and in his first game he was okay. I don't think it was a struggle by any stretch. If you can go get those guys together, then you can lessen the gap in terms of the ice time. Get those guys at more about even and kind of pushing one another. Then you have a situation like, I mean, I'm not comparing the Jets to the Leafs, but then you have a situation where you have Matthews and Tavares kind of 1A, 1B. So I think that's why you're going to see those guys stay together, and you're not going to just load up with Mark Scheifele and Ehlers and Connor. You may see it at some point, but I don't think you'll see it right away. And I think the Jets, they feel that their best chance to sustain winning this year and be a dominant team is to have those top 6 lines going at the same time. There have not been enough chances or times when they have been going at the same time. So let's see how that goes. And, from there, we'll see what happens, I guess. But, some folks suggesting Perfetti could be with the Moose. Yeah, I mean, I've said that earlier. I mean, I certainly could see that happening. So, and I think, and I'm also going to say this, there are some benefits to it, but that's not to say he's gone forever, or the Jets may not want to burn the first year of the ELC so that the contract slides. Let's see how the season develops. It's 3 games in and he's played 2. So that right now is not a concern. I think the Jets want him to get some playing time, and once he's home, maybe he's playing in the home opener for the Moose, and then we'll assess things from there, and then we'll see what happens when Blake Wheeler's back. I mean, there will be opportunities for Cole Perfetti. He's going to play well no matter where he is, whether he's with the Moose or the Jets. Then we'll go from there.
Well, I mean, I think people I agree with what people are saying here, and I go back to the idea of what the Winnipeg Jets used to be when they had more holes in their lineup and a lot of young guys coming up, and they could just plug young guys into the lineup. But the idea that I think I want to see Cole Perfetti play in the top 6 if he's coming up, and I think you touched on it, like the idea of getting him playing time on that power play is another idea. I mean, I like that. He's a skilled player. He's a guy who can set stuff up. He's a guy who's got hockey smarts. And I just don't think that the third line is the place for that. It really seems like a square peg in a round hole to me. And I mean, I guess, they're giving him an opportunity maybe to try and build some confidence or get that kind of out of the way, the early NHL games, so that when it's time for you to start your career, you can say, I already played 4 or 5 or 6 of these games. It's not a problem. I can get back in here. But I mean, I think right now you and I've talked about this, Ken, and I'm going to get into this. My biggest concern with this Jets team is in their bottom 6, and I know people want to say bottom 4. Because, you've got Stastny and you've got Lowry and those guys have it figured out. But I don't necessarily know that I've loved that line, and they got to figure out what's going to work down there and what's going to work with that, that fourth line. And they haven't figured that out yet. And I think that the response has just been they barely play that fourth line and haven't really played it in these first couple of games, these first 3 games. We took a look around. Depth matters. Depth definitely matters. And so I know that there's this Perfetti thing going on. I just don't like the idea that they're experimenting with something that looks to me like I just never expected it to work, Perfetti on that third line. So my idea is again, I think he's going to be a great player. I think time with the Moose would serve him, but they need to start figuring out what they're doing with their bottom 6 here and what works, because I'm not seeing a lot of it. I know people and Ty and LeBroker is saying justify Nash on the first power play unit going forward. I'm not going to do that because I don't agree with it. And I'm not even going to dwell on that because I think we all know that once the right people are, or once the lineup is back, he's not going to be there. But, I know people are disagreeing with me in the chat, and that's fine. I haven't seen enough from Vesalainen. The amount of opportunity he has been given, many players would have jumped on that opportunity and done a lot more. I'm not into this idea of, he's getting a little better and a little better and a little better and a little better. Like, he had how many games last year, Ken? 18, 22? Like, this isn't a complete and total rookie who hasn't seen this before. He's been given a lot of opportunities, more opportunities than a guy than Jansen Harkins has. And I go back to 2 seasons ago when I think Jansen Harkins really jumped on his opportunities. That's what I want to see. I want to see the team putting Christian Vesalainen in a position where he's feeling like he needs to pounce on his opportunities, because it doesn't look like that right now. And it looks like he's been given chance and chance and chance over and over and over again. And I don't agree with people. People can say he looks better, this and that. I don't see him turning a lot of opportunity over with the chance he's been given. So I want to see guys like Svechnikov and what he can do. And again, I go back to the idea of Svechnikov and Harkins. They were a good pairing in the preseason. It boggles me that we haven't seen that so far in the regular season. Ken,
just a quick
unless
thing.
you have,
it was only 12 games last year for Vesalainen,
right,
and most of them were in a fourth line role. But he did get a little. No,
he got moved up to the second and the third line. He played on the second line at some point last season.
Not often.
Not often, but he
mostly on the fourth line.
Given an opportunity to.
He played a bit with Lowry in the playoffs when he subbed in, but
right, but there was a point where we were questioning who was going to move up into that second line spot, and we were wondering if it would be Harkins, and that was when we came to the definitive conclusion that at some point, somehow, Vesalainen had jumped Harkins in the queue or in the depth chart, and that was, again, it was a situation I didn't see him pounce all over it. Let's move on because we only have about 5 minutes left to go here. You talked a little bit about Hellebuck earlier on. I just want to get your thoughts on what you've seen from him these first 3 games. Some people have said think they see lingering COVID kind of symptoms. I don't think any of us are qualified to say anything about that. But I get to the idea of where his game is at right now. Where do you see his game being?
Well, I mean, it's not at peak form. I mean, there have been signs. Obviously, like I said, the Brodin save is exceptional. I even think that the save that he made on Frederick Gaudreau, yes, it went off the crossbar, but man, he's in great position. He makes himself big, and it skips off his shoulder and then hits the crossbar. So I think there have been signs for Connor Hellebuyck, but I don't know if it's related to COVID or, I mean, certainly there was this is what we know, Sean. We know there was a disruption to his training schedule because of COVID, and we know that he told us after he got his shot, he also felt like he had COVID again. So do we know he's at 100%? Well, of course, only Connor Hellebuyck knows, but we also know the Jets aren't going to run him into the ground if he's not feeling 100%. So is he a little bit off in terms of his positioning and some of the other things? Maybe, but Hellebuyck would be like at the bottom. If the list of Jets problems, he's at the bottom of it, because I don't see this being a lingering issue. Goaltending has, save percentage has not been good. I mean, of course, that's a fact, but I don't see a lot of muffins going in either. I mean, there had been times, I mean, even last year, you had some situations where Hellebuyck would be outstanding, but then he would let in a bit of a deflator, but then he also would slam the door for the rest of the game. So tonight he made some exceptional saves, and there were a bunch of crazy bounces. So like I said, I would put Hellebuyck at the lowest of the concerns for the Winnipeg Jets coaching staff. But at the same time, I mean, this is what we said all the time, Sean. This has been the same for all 11 seasons. The Jets cannot win with mediocre goaltending. They need above average to elite level goaltending to be a high-end hockey team. Right now they're 0-2-1, right? I mean, Hellebuyck has not been playing at the peak levels that we're used to him playing at. To me, I have a lot of confidence in Connor Hellebuyck finding his game and being at a place where there's never any concerns when it comes to him. So, or what are you seeing? I mean, even in practice, we've seen Hellebuyck give up a few more goals than we're used to seeing, but I'm not drawing any parallels for that in terms of him getting off to a bit of a slower start. And in terms of rebound control, on the first goal, was it a big rebound? Yes, but Matt Dumba has a big shot from the point. I would say that's more of a coverage goal to me than a rebound goal, but some folks may not agree.
I mean, to me, I feel like so far this season, he's looked a little less or a little more confused. Those looks that a goalie gives when they're like, what just happened there? Or where'd that come from? Like, I feel like I'm seeing that kind of look to him a little bit more often.
Sure.
It could just be, though, I mean, like, the first game, 2 tipped in shots, right? Tonight, like, how many? Like 3 went in off strange bounces tonight. I mean, it could just be that the bounces are getting there, and maybe he's just not quite feeling it yet. You know what I mean? I was looking at the game tonight. To be honest, I thought that goaltending was the story, but on the Wild side, like, I thought the Wild goaltending was terrible tonight. I really thought that a lot of those shots. I mean, you want to believe, and maybe it is. Maybe every single one of those Jets shots from pretty far out just absolutely, blew past the goaltender. I thought the goaltending was weak from the Wild tonight. I thought one of the things about tonight is the Jets didn't get it done in a game where they caught a goaltender on an off night. And so the fact that, I was heading into this and I was thinking they had a 2-goal lead, and that's what I was prepared to talk about on this show tonight, was better by the Jets. The top line definitely figured stuff out. They figured the power play out a little bit. But I do think that it was a bit of an off night for the goaltending, but take that, whatever you need to get into the win column. But I don't know. I mean, that last goal, I don't think you hang that on Hellebuyck.
You can't hang the last one. It was a 4-on-1 tap-in. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So the game tying goal, I don't think so. The goal that brings it to within 1, it's a guy out muscles his man in front of the net, taps.
This is a good one here.
And that's when he's
The big
quiet.
and boring, right? We haven't seen as much
Yeah.
big and boring
No,
from Hellebuck, I think is the way that we would describe it.
no, but I mean, one of the other things is that it's not so easy to be big and boring when a team is crashing in down on your crease and pushing you
Agreed.
into the crease. You can be big and boring when you're taking those shots from long distance that we quite often, when we do see the Jets in past years and things are working for them, it seems like, and I've had Connor Hellebuck tell me this in the past before, he knows where the shots are coming from, and a lot of these shots are places where the Jets have decided that's where they're going to allow the shots to come from. The shots that the Jets are allowing right now are just, too much in tight, too many players whacking away. And I thought tonight was another example of that. I'd said it on the pregame show with Kelly Mora on CJOB. I thought, if you want to boil it down to a very, very simple explanation of what happened in games 1 and games 2 against the Ducks and the Sharks, was that the Ducks and the Sharks got to the Jets net and the Jets didn't get to their net. Well, I thought the Jets did a little bit better of a shot with it tonight, but I thought that by the end of that game, it was worse. It was their worst game this season with letting teams get to the net. So that's, to me, the biggest problem with the Jets season so far is how they're allowing teams to crash down on Connor Hellebuck. And this is a team that loves to go out after a loss and say, you know what? Things are getting better, and we like the direction of that game. We thought this game was better than the last game. They love to talk about building, but that's an area that hasn't been building. That's an area that's got worse, and they need to address that, because you can see on a night like tonight, you can put up 5 goals, and it's not enough if you're not keeping the other team away from your net.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly going to be an area that the Jets have to look at going. I mean, there's a good question, there's a good point here. With the crackdown on cross-checking, maybe that's been a factor. Maybe, I mean,
for sure.
But at the same time,
it's got to be body position, right? You got to get
sure.
to the net faster, and it's like basketball. You got to box guys out now, right? And you could see on that goal, the Foligno goal to bring them within 1 was the perfect example of that. That's a guy who gets boxed out, and then he fights through the box out and gets to the puck in front of the net and scores. Like this is everyone's playing by the same rules. The Jets are going to have to figure out a way to do that. People may be right. Maybe that's what they're struggling with right now. Maybe that's what they didn't expect. But they should know enough now from watching video that they can expect that. And they gotta figure out a way to. Yeah, you're going to take this one. Take this one. You know the answer to this.
Yeah, so this is very simple. The Jets were on a 4-on-3 shorthanded situation. Paul Maurice likes the wingspan of Stanley, and right now he is on the first penalty-killing unit with Dylan DeMello, right? That's their first unit over the boards. Then it's Pionk or Dylan is out there on the second, I believe. So that's why he was on the ice. And, I mean, Logan Stanley had the best scoring chance of overtime, but it was stopped, and then I think it looked like he was, I don't know if it was intentional or inadvertently tripped, and there's nothing to do with slow. I mean, they were killing a penalty. It wasn't 3-on-3, Brian. It was a 4-on-3 penalty kill.
Yeah.
So that's why he was on the ice.
Hey, let's do this before we sign off, because I kind of am interested in this debate. It's a new.
Sorry, one other quick one before you go. Butter asked about Sandberg. Sandberg is still out. It was like a 6 to 8 week stretch, and when Sandberg is ready, he's in no position to be recalled. He's going to need plenty of time to get caught up. He basically had 1 training camp practice, so I don't see him being on the radar for quite some time. There's no room for him anyway right now.
Go there, yeah, exactly. Dan Marr says it's a new defense system this year, plus new pairing on the top 2 pairs. It makes sense. It'll take some time to gel. What are your thoughts on this, Ken? Because this is what training camp is supposed to be for. This is the preseason training camp. This is where you're supposed to lock in your systems, and this is that you're supposed to hit the ground running. I know not all teams do it, but I think the Jets have done a pretty good job of establishing their systems in years past, and it feels to me like this is a year where they didn't get that lockdown.
Well, I mean, they've been together basically since day 1 of camp, so they've put the players together in the position to get to know one another. So I think it's more a systemic play than it is the partnerships not working. I actually think that Schmidt and Morrissey have been quite good together. Were there a couple of hiccups tonight? Sure. I mean, I know folks are on the first goal. Schmidt was not trying to pass it to his opponent. The puck kind of rolled off his stick and it ended up in the slot area. So I I think that pairing for the most part has been pretty good. I think that I don't know that. It has not gone. Let me put it this way: it has not gone as smoothly for Pionk and Dylan as it did out of the gate with Forbert and Dylan. But I think that Forbert is not. Dylan will be a better partner for Pionk as the season rolls on. I think that's how I'm going to put it. Dylan is going to be an excellent partner for him. I think there's been some strong play from him. I thought he was quite good at times. I think that he certainly would have got his teammates' attention, much like he did in the first scrimmage. But this time, in terms of going up and going toe-to-toe with Marcus Foligno, who's a pretty tough guy, I think that's going to go a long way for him. I don't think that partnership has totally found its sync yet, but I think it has the potential to be very good together. So I think this is more to do with what we've heard a lot about is with the new systems that are being employed and the Jets trying to be a little bit more aggressive. They haven't had as much connection. Whether it's been a bit disjointed between forwards and defense, and I think there have been times when the defense has activated. We know that the Jets are already getting more offense from their defense than they have had. All of last year, basically, where they were, I think, among the worst at points and goals scored. So, I think that I think these 6 guys can do the job. So it's just a matter of getting settled in and working it out. So Mark would like 88 to be better. I think that Schmidt was quite good out of the gate. Maybe tonight wasn't his best game, but I think that Nate Schmidt has provided the kind of hockey the Jets are expecting from him. I think he did I think he gave that top unit a spark by giving that extra shooting option. I thought he looked for his shot a lot tonight. And was able to get it through. And that's something that the first unit was not having, that shooter's mentality out of the gate. So it's 3 games. Do I understand why folks are upset with an 0-2-1 start? Sure. But, this is also your friendly reminder that the Jets were never going to be 82-0. This is a dose of adversity, no doubt. The Jets are 0-2-1. With what was supposed to be a soft schedule, and now they'll be without their captain for at least 4 games and probably more. So we're gonna find out what the Jets are made of. It won't take long, but let's keep the receipts happening, and we'll check back. We'll keep checking in after every game, and once we get to game 10, we'll have a little bit bigger sample size, and then we'll see what's happening. The Jets need to be better in a lot of areas. There have been some areas that they've been pretty good at. Today, the power play improved. They got 2 goals. The penalty kill did not improve. So that's going to be a big issue for the Jets to get sorted out. Whether that's personnel or being more aggressive, that's up to the coaches to decide, and then it's up to the players to execute. But interesting times, right? Interesting times.
I'll say this.
It's okay to not like losing. No problem. No one says you're supposed to like losing, but the facts are the facts. If you think the Buffalo Sabres are going to win the division after going 3-0.
4-0? Did they go 4-0 tonight? They won tonight? Or is that just 3-0?
I thought it was 3 today, but
I don't know. All I know is my Stanley Cup pick of the Florida Panthers coming out of the East is looking mighty fine right now.
You're happy tonight. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like the people determining that the Jet season is over after the first 3 games, I'm calling it the Florida Panthers going to the Stanley Cup, which I did before this. 4 straight wins. They got this taken care of. Hey, our chat room was on fire tonight, Ken.
Yeah,
it was phenomenal. I was having a hard time keeping up. I don't read that fast at the best of times, but no speed reader was keeping up with them tonight. Great job, everybody. Thanks so much. Ken said, we'll see how things go. That Anaheim game, while I was waiting for this to start, I watched Anaheim go down the stretch with Edmonton, score late, and make that an interesting game. That Jamie Drysdale kid, I don't know if you noticed him in that first Jets game, but holy smokes, they have a young stud on their hands. Watch for him in the next Jets game. I know you love your Jets and you want to watch your Jets, but Jamie Drysdale is a player that I have the feeling we are going to be talking about for years and years and years to come. So maybe pay attention to him because you want to see what he looks like early on. Did he have a goal against the Jets? I know that he's their power play quarterback and one of Rickard Rakell tipped a shot of his, so he at least had a point. I think he had a couple points.
He had the GWG last night against Calgary, I believe.
There you go.
Overtime winner.
Stud, young stud. Check him out when he comes to town. Never mind all the young talent they have on that. This is the kind of game, Ken, that I absolutely was so excited when the Jets came back and we got to start covering them. Was these teams, because those were always like my favorite teams. I had my favorite teams when I was a fan and I wasn't doing this, but the teams I always liked was those on the rise, up and coming teams that were like young and exciting, and you knew they weren't going to get anywhere. Or if they got into the playoffs, they were going to, like, put the Dukes up and do fairly well, and then get, like, knocked out in 5 or 6 games by the Dallas Stars or something like that back in the late 90s. But this is one of those teams. This is a fun, exciting team. You shouldn't be surprised what they did against the Jets, because they've been, pushing people to the brink ever since. So I'm expecting a good game on Thursday night. That's it for us here tonight. Just want to say, everyone, like, subscribe. We love having you around, so that makes it easier for you to stick around. Oh, geez, this is the other thing. Hey, we've got a couple giveaways. Yeah. Our good pal Brian Munns, can you look up the schedule and tell me when the next ice game is?
Do my best.
What we'd like you to do is just leave a comment, any kind of comment, a thumbs up or something like that in the comment. And we've been given the green light to give away a set of Winnipeg Ice tickets whenever they have a home game. So leave a comment. We'll take all the different comments. We'll take your name, throw it in a hat, and then we'll reply to you if we pick you. And then there's something else here. A friend of the show.
October 20th is the next game.
Oh, October 20th. Oh.
Tonight.
Well, then, yeah. No, that's tomorrow. Or is it already past 12 o'clock? Yeah. So tonight. So if you want to go to that game, check it out, everybody. And then where I had...
But you have to be available to go to the game. Don't just sign up because you want to win a prize. You have to you have to be able to attend. Okay. And, oh, geez. I'll have to do that for the next game because it's on Friday. But we have a visitor, or excuse me, we have a viewer who's doing a pop-up restaurant, and they want to give away free pizza and Caesar salad. So we're going to get to that, and that's what we'll do after the Thursday game, okay? But anyways, we're going to start trying to give goodies and disperse them out to everybody. That's going to be great. When I say leave your messages in the comments, go to the video on YouTube and leave a message below. I can't scroll back through the chat. So go to Kenny and Renny YouTube page, leave a comment, and that'll enter you in the draw for Winnipeg Ice tickets tomorrow night, Wednesday night. Great young team they've got there. And again, a great chat room for us here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We will see you after the game on Thursday.